Hi, I'm Eric Lubau, and welcome to Beyond the Belt. This is a conversation with Heidi Cheng, a black belt out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Heidi is a fashion engineer and technical designer, a seamstress, and reclaimer of goods. I hope you enjoy our chat. Hey, Heidi, thanks for being here.
Hi, Eric.
Tell me, what was it like for you to get your black belt?
Surreal. I think that when I started, I didn't even really understand how serious Jiu-Jitsu people were about the sport. I just thought I was going to take some basic classes, learn a few moves, get some exercise, and then go home. And I remember viewing, oh, these are the black belts as unreachable. That was a skill that I could not comprehend even touching. And I remember the day that I got it, it was kind of like, well, I'm here now. Now what? I didn't really understand how much I could still learn.
Did it feel real in that moment, or were you just sort of stunned at the existence of it around your waist?
Well, the way that my school did it was they kind of gave me about a month heads up that it was going to happen because they wanted to make it a whole seminar event thing where, I taught a few things that I'd been working on, and then they'd give me the belt in front of everybody. So that month of prior work made it real. I definitely took that month when they kind of said it. I was like, nah, they're not going to do it. That's not going to happen. But then, the day shows up and everybody's in the room staring at you, waiting to give a speech. It's like, oh, yeah, no, okay, I'm here now. This is real. So, it took me a while, but I got there. By the time it actually happened, it was on my waist. Yeah,
What'd you
it
teach?
was real. What?
What'd you teach? Like, what was the moves you
Well,
taught or moves?
okay, so the way that my gym likes to do this is they want you to pick a project that you are bad at, a technique you don't know, a move that you would like to get better at, something that's not a strength that becomes a strength. And I did something I don't recommend people do in that situation, which was I wanted to get better at doing an escape from the bottom of side control, which is, the worst position to get stuck in. So I did an underhook escape. It was painful. It was something that originally I was like, oh, I want to do something really cool. I want to do a flashy submission. I want to look cool. But that's just not what I needed. That was not my biggest weakness. It was getting out of bottom of side control was something that I really wanted to get better at. And then I started talking to some of my teammates, lower belts or whatever, and they're like, no, teach it. I need that too. So I just went with it, and I'm really glad I did it. But it was a bottom of side control escape.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm personally somebody who likes basics and likes focusing on them, so I feel like that's a really good thing. Did you have to talk to any of the instructors to like validate that? Like, did they have to approve your choice of thing?
I think they did have a say, but they didn't reject it. And I definitely talked to them through along the way. This had been a long-term project of mine to get proficient at that specific technique of getting the underhook and sliding out and taking the back. Um, so I had been kind of talking them through it periodically, being like, okay, I'm stuck at this point and I've exhausted all options that I can think of. Do you have any ideas? So they kind of knew what I was working on along the way. But yeah, they were fully aware of what I was working on and were like, yeah, you need to work on that.
Is this something that you just avoided because you weren't getting in bottom side control, or did you just constantly get stuck there because it's a skill of the gym? Like, why were you particularly bad at this thing?
Um, well, I was specifically trying to work on the underhook escape version where you like slide out the bottom
Yeah,
because it's
like a ghost
a
escape.
lot less energy than, you know, elbow escaping out or hip bumping out or reverse rolling. And I just felt like I always struggled with some of the other techniques, and the underhook version was not one that I'd ever really experimented with before. So when I was asking other people, what's the technique that seems to work for you? Or if you have another suggestion, because why not? That was the one that came up. Uh, it was difficult because I basically would mean I would work on the technique and then I would go to open mat and just go to my partner being like, can we start and side control? And just spitting the words out to let a person pin me on the ground in the worst possible position and then try to fight my way out for like a year was really terrible. But I used that technique all the time. It honestly changed the way I move in a lot of other positions of being able to find the angle to just shoot myself out and pivot around people. So I had other ways of getting out, like I could like elbow escape or whatever, but I just didn't feel like I was as good as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, if somebody that was particularly good at pinning you pins me, it would be just, I'm gonna die here. This is where I'm gonna die for the rest of my life. This is where I'm gonna be. So I just, the way out is through. You got to do it. So that's what I did.
I'm a person, I mean, I come from wrestling. So for me, underhooks is always like one of the first things I try to get, no matter what spot
Yeah,
I'm in. And so if somebody gets me, the first thing I'm doing, even subconsciously, is grabbing for that underhook. So
I
it's
do that
in
now.
general
Yeah.
quite difficult to hold me down. So I didn't even think about that being a challenge. But now that you say it, if you haven't been a person who sticks to underhooks as like a core part of your game, you will struggle getting out
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
But yeah, it was terrible, especially if I go against a wrestler.
Yeah, they are a pain in the
Like,
ass. Yeah, for sure. I wanna swing back to something you said about like why you started jujitsu. You said you just thought you were gonna get exercise. Of all the things to just do and get exercise, being around a bunch of sweaty people in spandex or pajamas does not feel like the easiest way to get uh frankly just get exercise. Like what made you choose jujitsu and what made you kind of stick with it? Because that feels like a very long road to exercise.
well, like I said, I didn't really realize how long the road would be or how high level you can take it or how many steps you're going to go. I actually originally didn't start my my jujitsu beginning didn't really start like I'm going to do jujitsu and I'm going to get black belt. It started at um a regular gym that was like CrossFit and then self-defense classes, and it actually started with couple classes there that were groundwork because for self-defense they just thought that you needed to get comfortable with being on the ground, especially as a woman. You just want to don't want to freak out, you want to have focus and think about things you can do. So that's actually where I kind of had a taste for what it was like to grapple. And then that was actually, I lived in Ohio before I was in Philadelphia. And then when I moved to Philadelphia, I realized there was actually a jujitsu specific school near me. So I figured I'd try it out because I always really enjoyed the grappling classes. I was kind of interested to see how far I could go. But even then, I still didn't really realize how intense it could get. But, you get the bug, and then suddenly it's less about the exercise and more about trying to figure out the thing, trying to figure out the puzzle.
Is that what
And
it is
I'm
for you?
still doing it.
So it is the puzzle for you.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to figure out, I can't do this thing. I know it's possible. So, and there's been a lot of things that over the years, I know that if I work on a technique long enough, a year or two or more, I will get there. There's been things that I never thought I'd be able to pick up that now I can because I just kept grinding them out for a very long time. And there's a very satisfying feeling of being able to naturally fall into that movement.
What is that? Like, what is the thing that was the hardest for you to pick up? I mean, are
Uh,
you gonna? I would be surprised if you say the elbow escape from side control,
n-
but in general,
no,
what
no,
was
no.
it?
Well, okay, the first one, I remember the very specific move that made me realize how nuanced jujitsu could be. For example, and this is more of a fast one, would be, oh, the triangle. I remember when I first learned it as a self-defense thing before I got really serious. It was trap your partner's head and leg, head and arm with your legs, and then squeeze. And I remember being like, oh, this is terrible. I can't ever do it. This doesn't make any sense. They're never tapping. And then started getting lessons, from a more serious school and teaching about how you just shift your angle so you can, chop more into the carotid with your thigh. And it was like that. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what jujitsu is. That's so cool. So stuff like that. But I remember the first move that I I remember the first class of my at the jujitsu school with, a gi on, the whole shebang. The first move that we did was a collar choke, like an X choke from bottom of close guard.
Yeah.
I don't think I was able to consistently pull off the gi choke with the grips. I couldn't figure out the grips. I couldn't fall into it until at least a blue belt. Like I just struggled to find the place. I remember thinking, well, I guess I'm more of an armbar person because I can't I can't do it. And now that's it's like my favorite submission. I love gi chokes. You know what I mean? Um,
I get that.
and then there's
I don't
always
think I
been
understood.
benchmarks along the way that are like that.
Yeah, I don't think I understood cross collar chokes until like late purple belt, early brown belt. So
Yeah.
I get that.
But can you now do you like it was weird how it was like I couldn't at least I just couldn't adjust my hand to fit to where it needed to be to just snap down. But now it just comfortably falls in, like the muscle memory is very
I
comfortable.
have very bad wrists that I got from years of striking. And so for me, gi chokes are particularly difficult. If I don't get the angle exactly, my wrists will hurt for a week.
Yeah.
So I'm like very careful. So if I get it, I get it. But if I don't get it, I will let it go rather than making the adjustments that I would normally make. And I won't even try things like baseball bat chokes or something, or Ezekiel chokes in very specific ways. Cause it like literally, I'm worried about being in pain and not being able to like type or teach or something like that. So, but
Yeah,
when I
that's a
get it,
thing.
it's very tight. Like when I get it, it's like I nailed it because I know it's like okay, I'm not risking my own health or pain thresholds for this.
Yeah, like for the next week.
Yeah,
One move is not worth paying for the next week. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I've actually I've made such mistakes while trying to get gi chokes that I've tapped when I'm the one applying the submission because I'm like okay, stop, this hurts.
Yeah. It's like I'm wrapped up. I think I'm twisting myself up. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
You're a woman who got into this and stuck with it. Like, what do you think is good advice for women? Because I feel like this doesn't get talked about the way I really hope that it would. Like, what do you think is a good piece of advice for women who are like, on the fence about it, or they've started and they can't decide to stick with it?
I mean, the first advice is regardless of gender is you have to want to do it. You know what I mean? Some people I feel like they like it because maybe they saw it on TV or something, but they don't actually like the rolling. They don't like the training. They don't like wrestling with people being that close. So it's kind of like, well, you have to like the sport. But those that do, you know, they have every right to be there. I have every right to be there than my male counterparts. You know what I mean? And for the most part, I think I've had a very positive experience with supportive training partners. I feel like when I see newer women joining, I always try to reach out to them and make them feel welcome, but that only takes them so far. They have to really take that step and be not afraid to work with as many people as they want to or are able to that are at the gym, male or female. And most training partners are very willing to do so, you know? Um, it just takes
What
that
is that?
first step.
What does that mean? Like you have a right to be there. Like I assume that at the gym somebody made you feel like you didn't have a right to be there, but like what made you choose that phrase specifically?
I feel like there's definitely been a few times where maybe the class would be a little bit smaller, and this is certainly not happening now, but when I first started, where maybe there'd be several males that are all a little bit on the bigger side, and they all conveniently would choose to partner up with each other, and then I'd be like the last person standing, like the one that didn't get picked. Or, for open mat, kind of getting benched a little bit because the partners just didn't work out. And it's kind of like there's a point where you're kind of like, wow, should I even be here? Like all these guys are knuckleheads. They're all gonna have fun. They're gonna kill each other. They're gonna wrestle around, and then they'll just be me. And that's inherently what jujitsu is, right? Not being the big meathead. I mean, I guess you can be. I can be a little bit of a meathead, but yeah, it was kind of like why can't I also do it? So taking the step of being like, will you partner with me? You know, we don't ever partner together. Let's do this. Let's train together. Let's work on the technique in class together. Let's do this. And there's no reason why I can't do that, right? And learn learn how to do it. Take advantage of the opportunity that these guys don't have, right? They don't have the ability to be the smaller person and figure out how to wiggle yourself out into something that they may not ever have to figure out, at least not as quickly as I did. So, yeah, you can do it. Like women can do it. They just have to take that step and acknowledge that they want to do it, and then just start
Was it
picking
a
people.
self-confidence thing for you?
In what manner?
Like to be able to ask that question? Was it like self-confidence that, hey, let's partner? I don't want to be last. Was it frustration that got you to that point? Like what was the tipping point that pushed you to be able to do that?
Uh, I mean, maybe when I started, it might have been a little bit of a confidence thing of not wanting to be last. I actually now kind of deliberately put myself like I kind of usually don't pick a partner ahead of time. I'll look around to see who isn't picked immediately, like who aren't the people that immediately meet up. And usually that leaves somebody that I've never trained with. So that kind of I let fate decide. I'm like, we're not going to be friends. We're going to partner together now. You know what I mean? Um,
I think it's great that you do that.
but I
Like
think
that
it's a
doesn't happen
maybe
as
it's a,
often as it should.
oh, I mean, yeah, I do make the effort to try to do it. Um, I guess it is a matter of self-confidence in the opposite direction now, whereas maybe before it was trying to be self-preservation. Now it's like I have the confidence to know that I should be able to work with anybody for the most part. And sometimes there's a lot of people that you're like, I guess you're a really quiet person, but you're a really fun person to train with. You know what I mean? You're a really fun person to work with in class. You're a really fun person to drill with, problem solving, all that stuff. So it gives me the opportunity to, meet people that I maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to otherwise.
What was like the hardest part of your jujitsu journey? Was it like that transition? Was it, some thing at blue belt that happened? Like what was the most difficult thing for you as a journey, as far as your journey goes?
Oh, I mean, I think it's the same thing that a lot of people have where, you have a bad day either before you go to the class or even during the class and just keep coming back, instead of being like, oh, I'm terrible. Everything sucks. I got tapped 15 times. And I think maybe crushing that ego down a little bit and just being like, but I'm still having fun. I don't even care. It's fun. I don't care. If I lose, it's still fun. I probably lost to something hilarious, you know. Uh, but getting over the whole having a bad moment and just for that moment being like, oh, I really need to just not be here. No, you're fine. Just keep going. It's fine. And I've never regretted it, right? I've never regretted having a bad day at work and forcing myself to go to train. I've always been happy by the end of the time, or if I had a bad round, take a breather and just do another one. It's always been great. So I think that was something, the mentality of just keep going was something that took me a while to beat into my brain.
That's a really good lesson, I think, in general, to like take off the mat, just
Yeah,
keep
definitely.
going. Yeah. I actually love getting tapped a lot. I love being in rounds and just getting tapped like 5, 6, 7 times because it's just like a nice, gentle reminder that if I had an ego that day or that week or that month, it's gone. There is no way to have a big ego if you get tapped 6 times in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
especially at the upper belt level. So for me, that's always, always fun. Unless it's like in
Yeah,
a mean way. If somebody's doing something super mean, that's a little bit different. But if it's just playful
yeah.
and I get tapped 6 times, I'm like, man, what a life.
Also, I can learn from that, right? It's another problem to solve. Like, I know when I'm going to roll with ABC people, they're going to hit me with their top 3 submissions, and I know what they are because they always get me. Well, if I want to learn how to stop it, I'm just going to keep going with you until I figure out how to stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, how boring would it be if nobody was a challenge, right? So, yeah, no, I love it.
I saw a TikTok the other day, and I don't remember who they were talking about, but there was like these 2 announcers talking about jujitsu, and they were like, "Imagine being so good at jujitsu that you just get bored while you're submitting somebody who's the best in the world, amongst the best in the world, and you can just look at the camera and roll your eyes at how easy it is. Like, who wants to be that good?" And I was thinking, exactly. I don't ever want to be that good. Like, I
Yeah,
want to be in a position where I get, occasionally beat up and get to laugh about it.
yeah. We actually every now and then you have, new people. You have somebody that transfers in from a different school that moves, and whenever you roll with them, they've jujitsu is such a weird sport, right? We all learn new techniques. There's always new techniques. People have different ways of learning it, teaching it, whatever. And they'll do something that I've never seen before, and they'll just crush me with it. It's like, oh, what is that? Can I learn that? I want to learn that, and I think it's an opportunity. I never get bored. I never get bored because I love learning. I love learning new things. So
Yeah,
yeah, totally.
you told me before we started recording, like when we talked off camera, that you have like a hyperfixation problem with all of your hobbies. And I think jujitsu is a really great problem, a really great hobby to have a hyperfixation problem, because you can go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole and, really kind of never run out of material.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I feel like in our I feel like a lot of jujitsu people, our brains are wired to be little maps, you know. Well, I'm gonna do this, and then if I do that, this is gonna happen to go here, and then I can split off and do this, and then it's like this flow chart that's going. And I imagine that if I actually took the time to map it out, it would look like I'm crazy.
I think a lot of us feel like that. I think a lot of people who do jujitsu, when they get really into it, are worried about coming off as crazy, because it's in many ways just another religion, you know.
Yeah, and I've also noticed that there's times when, like for example, I'll be taking a shower or something, and I'll just space out because I'm thinking about a move or the options that I forgot to try or um, something that I remember seeing a couple months ago that I forgot about that, oh, I wanted to work on this next. And then I'll just realize that the shower's been going for like probably 10, 20 minutes and I didn't even realize it. Can't stop. We can't stop. So
No,
yeah,
what's
definitely.
your latest hyperfixation?
Yeah, okay. I've been really into I got really like like shoulder locks, arm locks, and that's normal. But I've been really leaning into the Tarika Pilates, and I've been
Yeah,
trying to do the Barata Pilates. And then I think I saw this thing that I've been working on that's like a hip Kimura or called the kettle Kimura that I found out that we saw online. And all of these I haven't done before until about the last year. And I've just been going down the rabbit hole of trying to find different ways of entering them. Uh, Probably trying to hit it on every single training partner that I've had on open mat for the last few months. It's on Instagram, been like saving that technique and then saving that technique and then saving that technique and just trying to figure out how to if that would work for me. So those are probably some of the more trendy moves that I've been like, ooh, I've never done this before and I want to learn, and it's just kind of been sticking for a while now. Um, they're not terribly new, but they were very new to me. I'd never learned them before. And then suddenly I'm just this is what I'm doing right now. Yeah. So definitely those.
I specifically was actually asking about non-jujitsu hyperfixations, but that's
Oh,
totally fine to have them
I'm sorry.
in both places. That's okay.
Ooh, okay. Um, one of my personal things is that I don't like being wasteful with materials. I don't like being wasteful with food. I don't like being wasteful with just a lot of trash, I guess. So I do like to work with my hands. I'm pretty crafty, I like to build things. And I like to use things and recycle them into something else or not throw something away if it can be saved. One of the things I've been really into lately is actually like visible mending of clothes. Whereas, you get a hole in the pair of pants or something. It used to be that was, close it up, stitch it down, make it look as hidden as possible so maybe it wouldn't be identifiable. And right now, I've been really into deliberately using decorative stitching or, patches and making it very obvious that it was a repair. But it's sort of the charm of the garment and it kind of gives them more personality. Um, so I've just been going through anything that has a hole in it and being like stitching it down in a way that's very visible. So like visible mending, or I think the Japanese term would be sashiko, where they use, a
Yeah,
decorative
with
type
the
embroidery on
decorative
top of the
gold or
hole.
something to replace to clean up pottery or
Yeah,
yeah, like
exactly.
ceramics. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually love that conceptually and as well. Like I have 2 or 3 pairs of gi pants that are have started to rip around the knees and stuff. And my wife Patches, who's like an incredible sewing, just good at that stuff, has put like these big patches of like floral patterns or something that just does not in any way fit the gi, but it just looks really cool. So I absolutely get this. Is that the kind of stuff that you do now too? It's just like cover it just like giant normal clothes, or is it like jujitsu focused?
It's mostly normal clothes, like street clothes. Um, I haven't done it to a gi yet. I do have a few that are starting to wear down, so maybe that's just the next project is starting to make it look very colorful.
How'd you get into sewing?
Oh, I've been doing it my whole life. Like my mom, I remember when I was really little would be like, we don't need to buy you this. We can make it ourselves. So my mom was always sewing with me. I never had a child safe sewing machine. I remember my mom having a big metal sewing machine that I just luckily never sewed with my fingers. And it just never stopped. Yeah. So it's been something I've been doing for as long as I can remember.
Did you like it back then? Like, did you enjoy the act of sewing, or did you enjoy spending time with mom and it became like a wonderful nostalgic activity as a result?
I definitely liked it. I've always had this thing where if I'm working with my hands, I might just focus in on that one thing. And then suddenly at the other side, you have a finished product. And that was kind of cool. So I think I always liked that aspect. I'm sure hanging with my mom was part of it. But the second that I was kind of okay with it, she was like, all right, you're good. I'm going to go do something else. So it was fine. Like babysitting because I was taking care of myself. But yeah, no, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Do you have like a favorite part of the process? Do you like the cutting? Do you like the assembling? Do you like the act of just sitting there and focused on what the machine's doing for you?
Um, I like seeing a garment or whatever it is that I'm working on start to look like the thing that I wanted to make. I have a tendency to like to work on very detailed projects if I'm starting from scratch. And it's really interesting to me to see random pieces of fabric and like hardware that's just everywhere. And suddenly it starts to come together and I can see what this is going to become now. Um, from like somewhere between the initial conception to even before it's fully finished, you're like, oh, this is what it's going to look like. This is cool. And that's probably my favorite part to the point where sometimes I have a hard time with the finishing of things. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit better at being more disciplined with the whole, just finish the thing so you can do something else. It's fine. Yeah, definitely.
Complex and it like what? Like complex dresses or like is it
Well, as far
costumes
as
or
like hyperfixations on sewing projects, the things that I always can't stop making or wanting to make, coming up with ideas in my head are winter coats for some reason and bags. I love putting pockets in bags. I love making bags from scratch and I like to build as many pockets as I can on the inside so it's fully functional. I want things to be functional. Um, I actually won't even sew something anymore unless I can feasibly see a use for it. at this point. So, especially because I have too much stuff otherwise. Yeah. So it's definitely like I'll spend days trying to figure out the inner guts of a project, which is probably why I like the detailed things because I don't want to just sew something that I'm going to be finished in a day, even though I might get more use out of it. But
Do
that's
you
just my
use
thing.
all of your everything you make? Like, do you have every time you make a new bag or a coat, do you actually wear them or do you get rid of them and sell them or whatever?
Most usually I do. Um, like for example, sometimes I might, oh, I'm gonna make a dress for this wedding, and that'll be my goal. So then I'll wear the thing that I made for that event. Um, I mean, when I first started sewing, and then even when I was, younger, like a teenager, arguably I would make something and then it did not turn out nearly as good as something that you could buy, and I might be like, well, that was really ugly. I'm not using this. But I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I can kind of just go from start to finish, and it's something that I'll feasibly use and wear. I can't think of something that I haven't actually used at least once and been totally happy with it.
It
So,
seems like you had something very specific in mind of oh, I am not going to wear that. Do you have was that do you have a specific project that you're like, well, that went horribly?
well, um, I mean, nothing specific because there was a lot. It was just I didn't really understand how clothes were made. And then when I was in high school, puberty, and you're trying to figure out your style and your aesthetic. So I liked making the clothes that I couldn't buy myself. But if I didn't know how to do it, in my brain, what I was hoping it would look like would not be what came out. So I mean, even something simple like a skirt or a dress is just like, wow, this doesn't fit. How do people make things fit? So it's just a lot of that. It wasn't anything specific. There was just a lot of failure.
I feel like that's how people learn. So that sounds like a pretty good thing to me.
Yeah.
Do you have any rules for your clothes? Like, I mean, you said it has to be functional, but like, does that mean like every dress and pair of pants will have a minimum number of pockets? Or
I mean, if I could sneak pockets into a dress, I absolutely will. I mean, that's like the long running joke of women's clothing, right? Uh, I mean, I try to hold myself to a higher standard of like, I like the inside to be very clean, even though it doesn't need to be, no. Um, for example, if I'm making a bag, for example, I think a couple years ago, I needed a bag that would hold my work computer, uh, gi. I wanted it to have, extra room for all of the stuff you take to the gym. And I needed multiple compartments so that I could keep the wet clothes away from the dry clothes. And I just couldn't find a backpack that fit that description. So I actually made one, and I did use it for a very long time. So it was like that was hyper functional. Like it had to fit. Like I had my work computer, and I was using that as the thing I was using to create the pocket shapes for the laptop sleeve. Um, so something like that. Like I literally made a list of the things that I needed the bag to do, or I wanted the bag to do, and went from there. And if it did not hit those requirements, well, then I would do it again. I would make another bag, and it would have to be better. You know what I mean? Which is why I think I start hyperfixating on making bags because I'm thinking, wow, that was great, but next time I'm going to take it a step further. Yeah, that's what gets me.
I had a similar issue. I mean, I didn't make it myself, but I had a similar issue where the bag that I had been using for years wasn't cutting it anymore. It was starting to fall apart. The zippers were breaking. Things were at the edge. And so I made a list of everything that I liked about the bag and everything that I didn't like. And I fed it into AI and I was like, please give me the top 5 bags that you think would make sense, knowing my use cases and everything. And it just gave me a list. It's like, I think you'll like these. I think you won't like these. And then I went into a store to try a bunch of them out, and they all didn't feel super great. So I'm like, I just haven't continued the search. But like, I had this very specific. I want this thing that meets all of my requirements, but I don't have the sewing skills anymore to. Well, I don't think I ever had the sewing skills to make my own bag. But my sewing skills pretty much end at like what the military taught me of like fix this button, put a patch on this, and
Yeah.
that's yeah, maybe make a pillow or something.
Well, that's more than what a lot of people have nowadays, so kudos to that. Uh, yeah, it's definitely, there's a satisfaction of being like, I can make this thing that nobody else is gonna ever have because there's no way I'm doing it twice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
like sewing for other people too much, but, yeah,
But
it's
you do it
definitely
professionally
functional.
too, to some extent, right? You do, isn't what fashion design like some level of doing this stuff professionally?
Yes, my role is a little bit less hands-on. It's more of me explaining to people, usually factories, how to make a garment. I don't actually do the actual work myself. Like, I don't sew anything myself. I tell people how to do it.
Let's back up. What exactly is your job title and what does that mean? Because I sort of got it, but I would like to hear it from the horse's mouth,
So
as it were.
I am a technical designer. Uh, Technically, I am a 3D technical designer, but I can divide that into two different sections. The technical designer is not the person that comes up with the initial design of a garment. So I'm not the one that decides that they're going to make a red dress. That is a designer's job. They're the ones that decide the fabric, the colors, and the general design of what they want a dress to be. Then they give it to a technical designer, which is moi, and I'm the one that figures out how to actually build it. So things like the construction, the general fit, I have to make sure that you can move in it, make sure that the garment's not going to fall apart, and then I communicate all this information between the designers and the factories that are going to actually make the garment. So it's kind of like being, I guess, the architect of clothing. So that's my job. The 3D aspect is a little bit newer in that there's now a lot of computer programs that you can now take your fit pattern and you can drape it on a 3D model on a computer program and see what it could look like in real life before you actually waste the physical materials and the time to sew up an actual garment, which is a newer thing that I got into just before COVID hit. So I've been doing it ever since. So now I'll sew up something digitally and use that to communicate what we want the final garment to be.
How'd you get into that?
Fashion or
Well, I mean, overall, like it sounds like that job sort of required you to be good at sewing, or at least understand materials and construction. So is that like you were just like, oh, I really want to do this?
no, actually, I didn't even realize that my job existed until I kind of got it. I went to college for fashion design, so that's my degree. I might have slightly gone into it to be a little bit flippant to my dad, being like, I'm doing fashion because you say I shouldn't be wearing what I want to wear. So, but I do genuinely like it. And I think that most fashion students go into it thinking, I'm going to be a fashion designer. But they don't really realize that maybe that's not what they like. Like, I really like figuring out how to get something to work. Like, it's the puzzle again. The tech design is definitely more of the puzzle. How do I get to this inspiration? How do I get to this sketch that I've got from somebody else? Um, but being able to sew, knowing how garments go together, order of operations, all that stuff does help, and it probably was why I was able to fall into it pretty well. But no, I have a degree in fashion design, and then I was offered a job as a tech design assistant way back when, and I realized I really liked it. And then the more I saw of what the designers actually did, I was kind of like, oh no, actually, what I wanted was this all along. So, I mean, I guess in theory that means I did want to do this. I just didn't realize I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But
Do you have
fast
like a
forward many
checklist?
years.
Do you have like when somebody hands you a garment, do you like know exactly how you're going to approach it, or is this like every garment is a snowflake, and you're like, well, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the shoulders aren't going to work, or this neckline's going to fall apart, or like like, how do you approach each new project, I guess?
I mean, a little bit of both. There's always going to be some basic, fits that we always like a standard shirt. We kind of know what a basic collared button-down shirt's going to be. We just have to work on the tiny details of what the designer wants. But sometimes it is everything's a snowflake. It'd be like, you want this to be a weird sleeve. You want this to have an asymmetric hem. You want this to be a little bit funky and not be the same and not be normal. You want this. Okay, so I have to figure out how to actually engineer the thing to look like it's not engineered. Yeah, so it's a little bit of both, I would say.
Is there anything that you're ever, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, fuck this person for doing this? Like, do you have
Yeah,
any of those?
definitely.
What are
Usually
some of
that's the
those?
thing is that it is meant to be a collaborative effort, right, between all the teams. Like we all want to make cute clothes. It's really satisfying when the final product is a really cute garment and you see people walking around wearing it. I want to make cute clothes. So sometimes I'll look at their basic hand sketch and it's like, that's not physically possible without breaking some rules. Or, I
What,
get that you
wait,
want
what
that
do
to
you
be an
mean, like
easy,
rules in this
like
case? Like,
I mean, just physics. Like for example, oh, I want this really fitted dress, but I don't want to have any zippers or anything. I want it to be really easy to pull on. Well, she can't get into it now,
yeah.
so we're going to have to talk about, can we afford a zipper or buttons or something? Because it's corporate, so you have to pay for it. uh, or maybe they're imagining that the fabric's going to do something that it just will not do. Like they want it to be a very stiff skirt, but they're using a very lightweight fabric. And it's like, it's just not going to do what you're showing me. We're going to have to change something, or you're going to have to be okay with it not doing what you want it to do. But those are all discussions that we try to have early on, which is experience. We all have to learn the hard way sometimes. So yeah, talking through it, making sure everyone's aware that what they're getting or what they're not going to get, and then chisel away as we go.
Have you seen one of the things that you worked on out on the street or out in the real world and
Yeah,
then like
all the
had a
time.
moment like, oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I used to like to go into the stores that, the company I work for and be like, I made that, I worked on that, I did that, that's mine. And I definitely see people walking around wearing it sometimes. Sometimes I'll see somebody wearing something that I know I worked on like 10 years ago. I'll be like, oh, I thought that would have been in the landfill like forever, like it was just a small thing. But yeah, and it's kind of cool. Um, Definitely the glamour's gone worn off a little bit now that I've been doing this for like 18 years, but it's still, it gives you like little tingly feelings of like, ooh, that's the thing that I worked on and it's cute on you. So yeah.
Have you ever said something to somebody about it?
Uh Only to my coworkers. Like if somebody at my like a coworker was wearing something that I made, I would be like, I did that, or if maybe the salesperson at the store was showcasing something, I'd be like, I work for the company. I made that dress. But I try to not stop strangers on the street to comment on their clothes.
Okay, that I totally understand how that could be just a little bit weird or creepy, but also it might sometimes you just have that rush like, oh my God, that looks so good on this person and I helped design this and like you're just like, oh that thing. I was just wondering if you had any like,
I probably look weird. I might be staring at them, trying to hold it in. And if they're looking at me, they might be like, what's wrong with this woman? But yeah, I don't think I've ever said anything to a total stranger.
that feels kind of wholesome though if that were to happen. If you were just like, hey, I work for the company that makes those and I'm just really happy that it looks so good on you or something. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see it being
I
creepy.
can see that. No, I mean, yeah, I can see how that might be. Like, if someone were to say that to me, I'd be like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. But I don't have the guts to do that.
Okay. Is there anything that switched to become more difficult when you went from like doing this by hand to going into the 3D? Or has that made things actually easier for you?
Uh, well, there's the whole like technology is going so fast right now, right? With the
Yeah.
AI and all of that. Um, the hardest part was literally just that of going from the physical, we're always being able to see what the sample looks like in fabric form, the sampling, and being able to understand what the uncanny valley digital form, how it translates into reality. And I think that across the board, we all kind of struggled with that, where it was kind of like, oh, so I thought when I see this digital form, it's going to look like ABC, and then it looks like 1, 2, 3 instead. And it's just something that I think part of it is the technology is improved, but also learning experience, being like, I know that this is how it's going to translate. So that was probably the hardest thing to figure out.
Do you still, or do you make mistakes when you're like, oh, this thing looks great in 3D, we're fine. And then you build one in real life and you're like, oh, that went horribly. I did not expect the fabric
Yeah,
to
definitely. All the time. Still learning. Still lots of learning. It's
tell me
better. I'm
about one.
obviously better, but
Cause I feel like yeah, I feel like your reaction was very specific in that moment. So I'm just curious, like what you were thinking about when I said that.
well, I was thinking because I'm the technical designer, I'm the one that controls the digital sample, and then I show it to the designers to make sure it's what they want. We call it a fitting. Whenever we have new designers, it's always a bit of a learning curve where when they go from the digital form to the physical form, it's like I have to reteach them or I have to have the conversation again of being like, I mean, this looks like what I expected it to look like. So it's definitely teaching other people how to see what I see. But I mean, there's always going to be this. I mean, once or twice a month at least, I'll get a physical sample and I'm like, oh, that I could have done that one better. Well, next time, improve for next time. Yeah.
Is there a lot of crossover between your professional uh sewing or creation and like private, like personal stuff?
I learn a lot. Um, because I mean, I obviously took sewing classes in college because fashion design, but those were pretty basic. And when you go into the corporate world and you're learning all these things or you're seeing the way the factories do things, you're kind of like, oh, actually, that's very production friendly. I could do that. So then I can translate it to my own sewing at home. So I actually think that my home stuff has gotten a lot better. Like my personal hobbies have improved a lot technically just because I've seen how it can be done on a massive scale. Copy
Can you give
everything,
me an
steal
example?
everything. Just like construction, honestly. Usually like I think of a good example. It's a lot of finishing things, I think. So like I was saying kind of earlier, I like seeing the garment start to become what it's gonna be, but then I have trouble finishing the product. The thing that I'm working on, like the hemming and just the way to finish the sleeve openings or the hem finishes or all that stuff. And finding different and unique ways of doing that, which is actually not that unique. It's totally normal. Like I do it all the time with my work, but I didn't think of that stuff when I was younger and trying to sew my own clothes. And now I can definitely be like, oh, there's this hem finish that I really liked on this dress that I worked on. I'm going to do it here. So just stuff like that, just like the finishing probably looks a little bit nicer. I can get away with wearing things that I make and people not immediately assume that I made it.
Is this because is that last 20% or 10% or whatever it is for you, is that because you're kind of like a perfectionist and you're like, I will not consider this done until I've done every little thing? Or is that like a standard that you've set for yourself because you've seen so much of this professionally?
Well, I I feel like when I was sewing for myself and trying to make my own clothes when I was, in middle school and high school, looking back, it definitely looked very handmade. Seams were wavy, maybe the construction that I picked was just it looked very handmade and homemade. And there's a very it's definitely like a higher standard of my own eye. I want to be able to look at what I made and if I don't acknowledge the errors that nobody else can see. Of like, okay, this looks like it was professionally done. And a lot of that is the finishing. That last 10% is how you finished it is going to make it look clean or messy. And I want to be able to make it look clean. I want it to fly under the radar, you know.
Is there a reason for that?
Just personal interest, personal hobby, personal standards.
Would you be like embarrassed if somebody's like, "Did you make that?"
No. Well, I mean, I've never had a stranger suggest it. I've definitely had people, like people that know that I sew, ask frequently.
Yeah.
And it's more, I think it's kind of funny when somebody's like, I like that, where'd you get it? And I'll be like, well, I made it. So if I can fool somebody, um, that's like the litmus test of like, okay, it looks good. I'm happy with that.
It's so funny to me because I feel like if I was able to do this stuff and somebody was like, "Did you make that?" I'm like, "Yes, of course I made that." Or like I would walk around and be like, "Hey, does everyone see that I made this? Like, what do you think?" Like, but people who tend to make their own clothes, they just don't really like broadcast it, and yet everything looks really good. And they're just, yeah,
Well,
that's it.
the problem is, and this is just my personal experience, because like I said, I don't typically sew for other people unless it's something I'm really interested in. If I start telling people that I make all this stuff all the time, like broadcast it, it immediately gets followed up with, will you make me one? Or will you sew something for me? And it's kind of like, that's not why I do this. And if I have to do it for somebody else, it starts to be less enjoyable for me. I do sew for other people sometimes. So like I said, it really has to be a project that I have clamped onto and decided that's the rabbit hole I'm going down. But
Like a gift.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Gifts. Absolutely.
That, yeah, like I said, if I could do it, I probably would do it more, but I just have too many hobbies. So it's already hard to find the time.
We got to pick and choose what direction you're going for sure.
Do you have any other like hyperfixations that have got you kind of jumping down rabbit holes?
Right now, I have decided that I'm going to learn how to crochet a doily. I've never wanted to do that before, but to have a very specific reason is because um I randomly bought this broken down umbrella, antique umbrella, where the mechanism works very well. It's very, engineered very nicely, but the cover is entirely shot, like the umbrella part. And I remember seeing some really cute parasols that were crocheted lace tops. And in my brain, I'd be like, that would be so cute for this. But I'm never going to find exactly what I want. So I have bought books on how to crochet. I have crocheted hooks. I have some yarn that I'm going to play with. I don't crochet. I don't crochet. I'm not a crocheter, but I'm going to be a crocheter by the end of this. I'm always motivated, at least to start a specific goal or a project in mind. So this stupid parasol that I want to recover is just because I want to be able to make a doily cover that I can like attach down, and that's now the cover for the umbrella. So that's my thing right now. It's kind of weird. I haven't gotten far enough to be,
I
good
think
at
that
it,
sounds really
but
cool. I mean, it sounds like you
but
have a very specific, like you said, idea of liking to reclaim things.
hmm I will save this umbrella. It might take me a year or two, but it will get done. How? No idea. I have to figure it out. Internet's wonderful. I can learn
That's a
anything.
problem for future Heidi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, all the space that is taking up, but it will get done and I'll figure it out. Might take some trials and errors, but yeah. So
Do you have
that's
any like
definitely one of
thing
those.
that you've reclaimed that you're particularly like proud of?
Oh gosh, off the top of my head.
I don't know. I'm also kind of wondering about that gas mask behind you,
That I don't actually know where that came from. I might have gotten that from some
like an Army Navy store.
surplus store or
Yeah.
something. My husband was in the army, so we have some random things like that. It has a Halloween costume with the roses on it.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy, I dressed up as Shredder for a
Ninja
Halloween
Turtles.
costume several years
Yeah.
ago. It was like a group project where several of my female Jiu-Jitsu players dressed up as Ninja Turtles or characters, and I was Shredder. He is made entirely of junk mail, like the cardboard spam, and then covered in duct tape. So the entire thing was duct tape. I have like spikes made out of duct tape because I thought it would be funny to have like a really ornate costume that was made out of junk material.
Did you
So
buy like
that's Shredder.
25 rolls of
That
duct tape?
you can buy like 6-pack on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I made like epaulettes and
I
what are
don't know
these
what they're
called? The
called
gauntlet
either.
things.
Yeah, like the
Sorry, what?
forearm. I don't know what they're called either. Like the forearm things. That a gauntlet might
Yeah,
be correct.
yeah, and then shin guards. I wrapped my leg with saran wrap, and then I duct taped over the whole thing where I
Yeah.
wanted it to go, and like cut it off into the shape so that it would be molded to my body.
Did you guys have like a public battle?
No, I don't. No, we didn't. We had a
That's
lot of
mildly
pictures, but
disappointing.
we did not stage any fights.
Okay. If I had that opportunity, I for sure would have had like a little bit of fight because Shredder wins almost all the battles but loses the war.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should have. I don't think it occurred to us. Yeah, we should have. We didn't.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I'm sure we could always do it again, I guess.
So is there I mean you have quite a bit of hobbies and stuff, like is there any piece of advice in general that you just wish everyone knew?
I think that it takes, yeah, sometimes you forget the older you get. I think you forget that it takes a lot of error and bad final products before you start to make good ones. I think I forget that because when you're younger, everything's bad and then suddenly it starts to get better. So then you just get used to things being better. Um, so if I'm talking to a friend, they'll like, oh man, I tried to do this thing and it was terrible. It's like, but that was your first try. Try again and again and again and learn from each one. And reminding myself and therefore everybody else, yeah, you're probably gonna suck the first 10, 20 times, but you will get better. It will improve if you want it to. You just have to keep trying. And
That's
then
the
you have to
kind of
pick and
lesson
choose
you
your
take to
hobbies.
jujitsu? Like just keep
Exactly.
sticking with it?
Yeah. A lot of failure. It's okay. Lots of failure. You'll get better. Yeah.
What are you excited for in the future?
I mean, specifically for jujitsu, I like learning new things, and there's always new things. There's always new moves. Um, See something online that's super trendy, and suddenly you're like, I want to learn that. So specifically for that, that's just what I want to do is gloriously fail at attempting 20 new moves that are just hilarious for everybody. Um, yeah, just see new things, do new things, see what else I would like that I don't know that I like until I try it.
That's kind of how hyperfixations end up starting, isn't it? You find
Yeah,
out you like something and then you realize you're about to lose a couple of months or years of your life.
yeah, you don't usually realize it until you're halfway through it and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is where we're going. Okay. Yeah.
I think for me, it's usually as soon as I've run the credit card and then I'm like, oh, shoot, now I'm into this.
Yeah. Otherwise, it was a waste.
Exactly. Is there anything that you want to promote?
Really. Just a shout out to my school, the Jiu-Jitsu company. Great people to train with. Always willing to put up with my shenanigans.
Or do you think your shenanigans are a difficult thing to put up with?
Think they're funny. No, I don't think they're difficult. I just think that watching me flail around like a fish while I try that random move that I saw once and never actually tried to work it out before trying it live, that sort of thing, all the
I think
time.
that gives people hope. I feel like watching like an upper belt or a black belt flail around and massively make mistakes or do something and look stupid gives everybody hope, like, oh, maybe it's okay to look like that and
Yeah,
still
I
learn.
definitely have a lot of glorious failures that you know what? It's okay. Just laugh it off and then try again. and then go back and be like, okay, maybe I should learn how to do this move first. And then everybody
Works
gets
for
to be
me.
my victim until I figure it out.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually. Like, rather than I need help or I need support, you're my victim.
I need you to give me your arm right now. I want to try this thing. Well, that's something I actually mentioned when I was speaking at my black belt. It was like, it's always nice having people you can train with that are willing to let you try to figure things out, right? It's just kind of being like scooting towards them on the ground with like itchy fingers, being like, "Can I try something? I need you to. Can you like give me your arm for a second? I want to try this thing." And there's, "Oh, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but okay, Um, there's a lot of that, and a lot of it being wrong over and over again until I figure it out.
Was that the lesson for you? Like the thing that, everybody has a thing when they get their black belt about, this is the important thing for me. And it sounds like for you, the important thing was, I have this group of people that are willing to let me kind of play and do whatever I want and maybe not be too judgmental. Was that it for you?
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. Um, I I don't have like I have so many playful moves. Am I a master at any of them? Probably not. But that's not what the fun part is for me. I don't want the move that is utterly unstoppable. I mean, I want it, but the work it takes to get there, it's kind of like I'll get there eventually. I love learning the new things, trying the new things, or if somebody always gives me a problem, like someone very specific is always like they're able to stop the thing that nobody else can stop, then it's like you're going to show me what you're doing, and I'm going to figure out how to stop you. But it does require, two to tango. I need to have the teammates that are willing to let me work, and I've got several that are willing to play, so that's always nice.
It's great that you've got that kind of community.
Yeah, quite fortunate.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time today, Heidi. This was a really fun conversation.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Ira. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about sewing, technical fashion concepts, or reclaiming objects, feel free to reach out to Heidi. If you find yourself near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, message Heidi for a role at the Jiu-Jitsu company. You can find her contact information in the show notes. And as always, thank you for your time and attention.